Okay, hello everyone, Victor Momo from Excel Moments with a continuation of the solution series to Excel BI's LinkedIn challenges. And like I've said in previous videos, if you're not following the Excel BI LinkedIn page, you should. If you want to boost your Excel formula game, this is challenge 894. So let's see what we have in here. Okay, so in terms of the instruction, it basically says, hey, split and stack the text and values as shown. So let's look at the text. Okay, so what we have is everything squashed into one cell, where we have, ticket ID, items and cost. And as you can see, the ticket ID is separated from the other elements with a comma. And then the items themselves, are separated with a pipe. The costs are also separated with a pipe. And the items and the cost, basically have the same dimensions. So it's more like you're doing a text split to rows. Okay, so because apple and banana will be split into rows, 10 and 5 will be split into rows. And then the one here, which is the ticket ID, pretty much, has to repeat itself, more like it does a fill down or it does like an expand. Okay. So at the heart of it is really like a text split to rows and then, using a V-stack to stack it all up together. The most important thing is that you get the calculation right for one cell. Once you get the calculation right for one cell, you're basically going to do a V-stack and just stack it all on top of itself, which is like looping through the entire thing, which lends itself to a reduce function, because that's what a reduce helps you do. It loops through, elements in an array, performs a particular calculation, and then it aggregates or accumulates the result. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is to at least be able to do it in one cell. Okay, now I'm going to start with one where I know, it has more elements, so I know that if I can get it to work for like this one, then it should work for the simpler ones. So I know I'm going to start off with a text split because I can see two delimiters, a comma and a pipe. One should go in the row, one should go in the column. Sometimes I'm not sure which way it should go. I just go ahead and write, see the result, and then I take it from there. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the pipe and take this one. Let's see what this gives us. Okay, so now by doing that, splitting based on, the pipe and the comma, we have something that looks not so much like what we want, but it's also like what we want. It just seems like I'm off by like 90 degrees, that if I kind of flip it, which is like a transpose, I should have something similar because this is what I'm trying to get. Okay, so you can see date, elderberry, and fig. Here they are in the row, here they are in the column. So I'm going to layer on top of this a transpose. Okay, so I'm going to do transpose. Before translate came, transpose was the only thing, but now you have to contend with translate. Okay, so now, we have this. And this looks basically like what we will have here, right? The only thing that needs to change is that these hash NAs, we need to sort them out, in some way. Okay, so there are a couple of interesting ways, but one, which is probably not so known, is the fact that the text split in itself has a pad width option, right? A pad width argument, which is just like in the expand function. And say when you want to expand the value, pad it with what? If I don't have anything to put there, hash NA, I can then pad it with maybe a blank or a particular value so that, pretty much whatever scalar or single value I have, can expand or can stretch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, go into the text split, and you see the last argument there is a pad width. So I'm going to put 3 commas. Now I get to the pad width. So what do I want to pad it with? So I'm basically saying when it returns a hash NA, what I want in this hash NA is basically the ticket ID. Okay, so how do I get the ticket ID? Maybe from this string here. The ticket ID is that number before the comma. So it means that if I can get the number before the comma, I basically, have my ticket ID, and that's what I want to pad with here. So I can do a text before and say text before in this cell, comma, and then put my comma as, my delimiter. I'm going to close this. Okay, and that's it. So it's saying when you return a hash NA, rather than a hash NA, because you don't have any elements to split on again, just pad it with, which is more like replace it, with the ticket ID, which is the text before the comma. And then you have that. Now, this calculation is primarily what you want. The rest of it is just to feed it into the reduce function. What's the reduce function doing? The reduce function is looping through each of the elements and performing this single calculation on all of them, and it stacks them all up together. So this is what makes it work. So once you have this part down, you're good. So I'm going to copy this, while I start to write my reduce. Okay, so I start with reduce. Most times for the initial value, most of us may leave it blank. Then we get to the end, we now do a drop. But one good practice that I see a lot of people do these days is in a case when you need the headers, instead of having to do the reduce and drop and then have another V stack to stack the headers with, the result or the output, we basically put those headers as our initial value. Okay, so our initial value here would be these guys, right? And I just press, F9. Okay, so F9 just basically gives me this as a literal. So this would be my first value, so that when I do my reduce, I would have that at the very top and the rest of it will be stacked alongside with it. Okay, so that's that. Now the array, which is what you're iterating through, is just these guys here. Okay, that's that. And then we get into the calculation portion here. We pull up a lambda, two variables, the accumulator and the iterator. So the accumulator, of course, starts up with this initial value, right? And then every time you perform a calculation, that gets, added to the accumulator. So the accumulator is more like, keeping track of what we have aggregated so far, right? At every point in the iteration. While the B, which is the iterator, will be going element by element. So the B will start off with this first string, which is in row 5. When it does the calculation on it, the next time it's iterating, B is going to take the value of row 6, the next time row 7, till it runs out of elements in this array. So now lambda A and B, then what are we going to do? So when we do the calculation for each of these cells, we want to stack it up with what we have accumulated or aggregated so far, which is our A. So it means we are going to do a V stack, take A, which is, hey, this is what I've aggregated so far, and I want to stack it with whatever I get from the particular calculation I do now. And what's that calculation? You already have that here, right? This is the calculation. This is what gives you, the output you need for each of those rows. The only thing that needs to change here is that instead of using B7 here, I'm going to use B, because B is my iterator. So I'm going to change this, to B, and I'm going to change this to B. Okay. And then I'm going to close, that's the V stack, close the lambda, close the reduce, right? And basically, we're done. That's it. We have our result. So the kernel of it is really this guy here. Once you get the calculation working, then, you basically feed it into a reduce. Reduce is just like doing a loop, and then it stacks everything and you're fine. The other thing you may want to do here is that when you look at your result, you can see that the ticket ID and then the cost, they are text. They are not numbers. As you can see, if you look at the bottom, you see a count. Ideally, if these were numbers, aside the fact that they are left aligned, you would expect to see things like sum, mean, and max. But this is expected because you generated these results, using a text split function. So once you use a text split, of course, you're going to get text. So now, how do we convert them to numbers? Very simple. We could do a simple calculation, because if you have a number that is stored as a text and you perform a mathematical operation on it, it basically, will return a number, whereas a text will return an error. Then you can then say, hey, if it's an error, when I perform a mathematical operation, then just return what you have. Otherwise, return the calculation. So let me show you, how you can set that up. So you could come here, and here I could use a variable and say, oh, let y be this whole transpose thing. Okay, come in here. That's where the calculation should be. Just return y. So let's close the bracket again, just to say, hey, we are doing basically the same thing. So it gets the same thing, right? So now y is that result. So let's do y maybe multiplied by 1. Okay. So now you can see that when you do that, these guys are now right aligned and they are numbers now. But of course, this text portion is going to fail because you can't do 1 times text. It's not going to give you anything meaningful, right? So you can come back in there. That's where you now need the if error, and say, hey, as in, if you perform this calculation, right, if it gives you an error, then just return that y instead. Okay, so that's the whole idea. Perform the calculation, and then if it's an error, just return what it is. Okay, and with that, you can see that we have them. The numbers are right aligned, and now they are numbers, and the text, also maintain, their position. So that's, really, everything about that form. Okay, let me show you, some other way you could do the calculation, right? Not the reduce portion, because the reduce portion is basically what it is, but just how to get from the raw data to the calculation for each step before you feed it into, your reduce. Okay, so let me start off with what, we started off with here. Just take this portion. So in here, I'm going to do a Control V, close bracket, right? So we have this, right? Let me just, make this a variable using a let function. I say let y be this, and, return y. Okay, so nothing has changed. The thing here is this. You see the hash NAs. You basically want this hash NAs to pick up the value from the top leftmost corner. So if this was a 10, if it was a 15, that's what you want it to pick up. So how do you get what is in the top leftmost corner of the array? You could use, an index function. You could use, maybe a take function. So what we could do is, bring this portion down and say if NA of y, what do I want to do? I want to then do take, y 1 1. Okay, so meaning that if it's an error, then give me what is in row 1 and column 1 of this array. All right, so, and this works. Okay, so now the other interesting way you could do it, for some reason, whenever I put my formula in edit mode with this, it's kind of conflicting with my recording software, and Excel just goes bonkers. So I'm just going to copy this from where I've written it, paste it here, press enter. I'm going to use, formula text just to show you what the expression is, and we can kind of talk through it that way. That's the workaround I have for now. All right, so you see here that we are using, an @y. So two things are happening there. One thing is, first, you're invoking what we call implicit intersection, and then Excel does the second part for you, which is broadcasting. Okay, so what's the implicit intersection part of it? Normally, the way Excel now works, with the new calculation engine, is that when the result is a row multi-column array, it spills, right? So if you write, like in this place, the formula is sitting in one cell and it spills into 3 cells. But if you don't want that behavior, you use the @ to suppress it. So the @ basically stops the array from spilling, okay, by returning a single value. Right, so instead of returning, multi-row, multi-column, which is like, an array, it returns a single value. So that's what the @ does. The @ makes that happen. If you're writing this on the grid and you then use, @ against it, then @ is going to do what you call implicit intersection and just return, the value that intersects with whatever row, you are on. So let's say you have something that looks like this, 1, 3, and 4. And you come here, if you point to these 3, right, it's going to return exactly the same thing. But if instead of doing that, you now say, hey, I want to do, like an @. Okay, so why does it give us 1 here? Because where we put the formula, it looks at where it intersects with the range we are dealing with, and it intersects on the 1. If you take this same formula down to this place here, right, the same formula is giving you a 4. I could take it up still. Okay, it's giving you a 4 because this cell is intersecting with the 4. If you take this same formula right now and then bring it somewhere here, where it doesn't intersect, this particular cell, that row does not intersect with that range, then it has nothing to return. Then it says, hash value. But that's the way the implicit intersection works. So initially, if I left it without the @ it would have given me, a spill. But because I put the @ it forces it to give me, a single value. Okay, so now this is when you're doing it on the grid. But in this case, we are doing it in a formula context. And in a formula context, when you use the @ of course, you're still trying to return a single value. What it's going to do is going to return the value at the top leftmost corner. So it means that the @y, technically is going to return the 3, from the top leftmost corner. But now, how does that 3, get expanded, if you may, I use that word, to the other cells? That is where broadcasting kind of comes in. So let's say you have, for example, a 3 by 3 array that looks like this, 5, 15, and maybe 1. Okay, so this is 3 by 3. Let's copy, paste as values. And you wanted to add a number 5 to these guys. Right, so it's like you have a scalar which is just 5, and you're adding it to, a multi-column, multi-row array. If you think about it, this is just one value, and then this is a 3 by 3. So for Excel to maintain the shape of the array that the operation is being performed on, what it does internally is like it takes that 5 and it stretches it out, creates, an array out of the 5 in itself so that it can match the array that is performing the operation on. That's what we call broadcasting. So think about it this way, as if this 5 then becomes 555, 555, 555, and then adds it to this array. And that way you can now add it element by element and see the result. The result just looks like you had, 5 in a 3 by 3 being added to this array, and then it gives the result. So when a scalar performs an operation, on an array, to maintain the size of that array, that scalar is broadcasted, if you think about it, or stretched out, so that we can still maintain, the shape and the dimension of the array. So that's what happens, here. So when you do the at y returns the 3. So the 3 then performs the operation element by element. And because it's in the if NA portion of it, those NAs now will then pick up, the 3. So two things are really happening. On the face of it, it looks like it's just an implicit intersection, but there's also a broadcasting portion of it. Anyway, this like some intro into some interesting, dynamic array, phenomenon or lingo, where we talk about pairwise lifting, truncation, broadcasting, implicit intersection. I'll probably do another video, where I explain them in a little more detail. But that's, just an interesting way of doing this, which is rather than having an array, you suppress it with an at, you get a scalar, and that way you can get rid, of the hash NA. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please, hit the like button. You can also subscribe, to the channel Excel Moments. For now, I'm out.